What if I told you that these simple freezer silicone molds could save you your time, money, and actually make meal prepping something that you don't dread? I thought super cubes were just another silicone tray in cute colors and sizes, and honestly I thought they were a little bit overpriced, but once I've realized that you can use them for way more than just soups and stews, my whole system and approach to meal prepping has changed. And if you're new here, welcome to Mediterrasian cooking. This is where eating healthy becomes available to everybody. I am a mom of two, currently pregnant with my third, and I'm still learning how to feed my family the best that I can. So in today's video, I'm going to weight it on the super cube trend and show you 3 ways that I've been using this tool every single week to help me hit my protein goals on a budget and eat food that I actually enjoy without overthinking it or spending hours in the kitchen, especially with little babies around. And I saved the best use for last, so be sure to stick around to the end of this video. Here's something that might surprise you given that this is a channel about healthy eating. I actually struggle a bit when it's about meal prepping because we eat so much. I do it because I have to have some kind of reserves in case I don't have time or we come home from somewhere and there's no food ready. Otherwise, the takeout option becomes very tempting and we want to avoid it as much as possible. So I'm always looking for ways to make the process faster, simpler, and less annoying. But when super cubes started showing up everywhere on my social media feed, I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical. But what finally convinced me to give them a try was the first use that I'm going to show you. And I think you might find this very relatable. My freezer was not very organized and half labeled Ziploc bags. Nothing was portioned. Thawing something out meant committing to that batch all over again, which when you make a giant pot of something weeks ago is a lot. Now I can just portion my portions into individual servings right in the tray. 1 cube equals usually about 1 cup and it's about a meal, and I can take out exactly what I need when I need it. And because I'm not forcing myself or my kids to eat the same thing on repeat, I actually enjoy it more when it comes back around a few days or a few weeks later. So same dish, way less boredom. And I love having a variety of choices at my fingertips. I bring my lunch to the table in just a couple of minutes if I need to every day, and I love having a hot meal that tastes better than anything that I could get at the drive-thru. And I've pretty much put an end to food waste in my kitchen, which is a huge win for us, especially when you're trying to not throw away food at all. And ideally to stick a budget. Once I got leftovers sorted out, I started thinking bigger. What if I could do this with ingredients that I would normally never bother making from scratch? So that's where use number 2 came in, and again, it completely changed how I think about stretching my food dollar. So really, most people don't cook dried chickpeas, dried beans from scratch, and I get it, it takes so long. It takes time, and canned beans are so widely available, not too overpriced, but dried chickpeas cost a fraction of the price. And I honestly think that they actually taste better. But the problem for us was always the quantity, because cooking a pot of beans felt like throwing the dice. Like, you never know what you're really going to end up with. It's like 1 cup of dried chickpeas become into 5 when they're cooked. Now, whether I cook beans or veggies, I do it without fear. I make chickpeas, white beans, black beans, whatever I'm working with that week. Also very big quantities of meat, whatever is left over, and I can just portion straight out into my super cube tray, and I know exactly what each cube equals. And I can have them whenever I need to. I love being able to pull 1 or 2 out and just toss them directly into the pot, especially because the kids don't always eat with us. They might want to have their meal a bit later, and I can have them whenever I need to. I love being able to pull 1 or 2 out. So if I'm making a curry or a stew, it's like an extension of the pantry in your freezer, except you made it all by yourself for literally pennies a serving. So once I got beans handled, I thought, what about everything else that goes into a recipe or a meal? Was I saw people using this for component prepping items instead of complete dishes, my weekly prep time dropped dramatically. So the next use is where that really comes together. This is the shift that changed everything for us, and it's way simpler than it sounds. So instead of making complete meals and eating the same thing 4 or 5 times in a row, I started prepping building blocks. So we're taking individual components, portioned and frozen, and ready to mix and match. I was seeing this all over social media and I thought I would give it a try. Why not? And I've been doing this with cooked greens, with rice, cooked meats, even raw protein freeze beautifully. All you have to do is portion, freeze, and then just transfer to a bag once they're solid. What this means is that you can mix and match your ingredients and build a meal from scratch in minutes, depending on what everyone prefers. One of my kids likes more rice and the other more meat, so on. You can use different dressings, different sauces, different seasonings. It never feels like the same meal twice. It's a lot of fun. And for those of us watching our protein and calorie intake, this also makes tracking so much easier, especially during pregnancy, when the protein intake has to be way higher than the regular one. I always know exactly what I'm getting in each cube. There's no estimating, there's no measuring, no logging from scratch. Alright, so leftovers are covered, beans on demand, mix and match building blocks in the freezer. This is how I turned from a skeptical impulse buy to something that I genuinely reach for every single week, if not probably every single day. I'll link the specific trays that I use down in the description below. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you have discovered any other uses for these super cubes that I might not have covered today. I'm making 9 essential Mediterrasian prep items that I'm gonna be freezing into the blocks. My goal is to create a perfectly balanced from scratch plate every time without the stress of cooking from zero. To keep things balanced and nutritious, I've prepped 3 high protein, 3 starches, 2 veggies, and 1 comforting soup that you must try. And to really test if this is the most efficient way to eat healthy as a busy mom, every day for lunch this week, I'm going to be making a meal using only my frozen cooked food. Because I want to help you get started on eating healthy journey, I'll be sharing all my recipes into the description, into a docs. You can also find my digital cookbook linked down below. All of these are completely free, so just grab them. Alright, now let's get into the first. Now normally most people just use the breast for breaded chicken, but today we're using a whole bird. I'm starting by breaking this down, cutting the back legs, separating the breast and getting those wings. Since this is a smaller farm fresh chicken compared to the massive ones you see in the stores, I'm slicing the breast into these beautiful 1-inch thick pieces. For the coating, I'm keeping it simple, 1 well-beaten egg and a separate plate with plenty of breadcrumbs, salt and black pepper. We're going straight from the egg to the crumbs. I skipped the flour layer today to keep it quick. Into the stainless steel pan with some olive oil, they go. This will fry for about 15 to 20 minutes. Since we're using bone-in pieces alongside to the breast, make sure to check right next to the bone to ensure they're fully cooked. Today, toward the end, I'm dropping in a bit of butter for that extra flavor boost. Once they're golden and crispy, they go into the glass container and we move to our second protein, which truly could not be easier. Next, I have a generous piece of beef that I've cut into cubes. My goal here is to make it ready under 15 minutes. I'm frying this in olive oil and seasoning simply with salt. A pro tip, when you notice the oil is gone, add a splash of water to the pan. It keeps the beef tender and prevents burning while it finishes. I'm freezing this in my silicone cubes with a layer of broccoli on top. This makes it so easy to grab and go for a balanced meal with rice later. It freezes perfectly and honestly the taste doesn't change a bit. Moving on to our fajitas. Now for an authentic look, you'd use bell peppers, but I'm using these crunchy red peppers I had on hand. I'm slicing them thin along with half a red onion right into the same pan I used for the chicken to soak up all that flavor. We've put small pieces of chicken in here so this cooks fast, about 10 to 15 minutes until the veggies are soft and the chicken is juicy. I season with salt, pepper and paprika, keeping it simple and quick. A squeeze of fresh lemon and a generous handful of cilantro at the end makes it pop. I actually had some fresh pitas and Greek yogurt nearby, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to make a wrap right then and there. It was a total success. The rest, however, made it into the freezer cubes to stick with the theme. Of course, it's not a freezer series without cilantro rice. This is a staple because it matches everything. If you have a rice cooker, use it. If not, the pan method is easy. Wash your rice 4 or 5 times. Cover it in an inch of water, add salt and bring to a boil. Once that heat is lowered and the water is gone, fluff it up in a bowl with lots of fresh cilantro and lime juice, or a very ripe lemon if that's what you've got. These cubes are beautiful and ready to save your life after a busy day. When it comes to starches, I feel like lentils are so underrated. This recipe is inspired by a dal recipe. I'm washing a cup of red lentils and bringing them to a boil with salt. While that's working, I'm finely chopping half an onion and 2-3 cloves of garlic. I prefer chopping over mincing here to keep that texture. Saute those in olive oil until they're beautiful, then add in 3 roughly chopped ripe tomatoes. Cover for 5 minutes, then mash them down with your spatula into a gorgeous homemade sauce. Since I'm pregnant, I'm adding some leftover cooked spinach into this soup for that extra folic acid baby needs. Top it with fresh cilantro and black pepper and you have a delicious, cheap and nutrients-dense meal that freezes beautifully. Now for my homemade hummus. We make this every couple of days and no exaggeration. Canned chickpeas, mashed well, salt, minced garlic, lemon juice and plenty of tahini. Standard recipes call for 1/4 cup, but in this house we go for a full half cup. The funny thing is that by the time I went to freeze this, my family had eaten almost all of it. It does freeze well, I just barely had enough left to show you because we enjoyed so much. A healthy addition to any dish is a hit of greens. For the spinach, I'm doing a quick 30-second blanch in boiling water, then straight into an ice bath to keep that color. For the broccoli, I'm using the florets and the steams, which are so delicious, and boiling them for 4 to 5 minutes. I'm layering this in the mold, spinach on the bottom, broccoli on top, so I can decide exactly how much of each I want for my portions later. Finally, this is a perfect Lent recipe using basic ingredients: red onion, carrots and potatoes. Since we're doing a no oil day, I'm sauteing this in a bit of water before adding the green lentils. Season with salt, cover with water or veggie broth and let it simmer for 20 minutes. At the end, I'm adding chopped Swiss chard for the last 5 minutes, then finishing with, you guessed it, lots of cilantro and lemon. This is exactly what you want in the freezer for those days you just aren't in the mood of cooking.